Right on. All right. We are down to agenda item 11A. This is the consideration and adoption of ordinance number 2022-13, an ordinance of the City Council of the City of Flagstaff authorizing the acquisition of real property and the determination and offers of relocation benefits to persons displaced to make way for the 4th Street, Cedar Avenue, Lockett Road Roundabout Project, providing for delegation of authority, severability, authority for clerical corrections, and establishing an effective date. Mr. Doty. Oh, Mike's not on there yet. Boom, you got it.
I don't have to hold it. All right.
Yeah.
Good afternoon, Mayor and Council. This is Bryce Doty, Real Estate Manager. I'm not the best judge of the time of things, so I did have good evening, Mayor and Council, based off the list of things. I had to scratch that out for afternoon. So, man, we were moving along at pace. All that to say is my judgment is always not perfect. I didn't even make a presentation for this one initially, but I do have a few slides prepared. I was not under the impression that this was a quite an interesting topic, but we have received a lot of public comment on this. So all that to say is we do have some slides here. Today I'm here to present an acquisition for ordinance for the properties that we need for the 4th and Lockett Roundabout. So here's where we are. We're in the intersections of Cedar and Lockett and 4th Street. Just above, it's adjacent to MIMS and to the Pine School and then the East Flag Library. So that's where we're at. Here's current conditions. So the genesis of this project was through safety funds, so it is a federal project. Because it's a federal project, ADOT is responsible for delivering it, and that affects the property acquisition in a few ways. We're the local agent for this, so that they have to certify that all of the acquisitions have been done through the Uniform Act. As the local agent, they are allowing us to acquire all of the partial acquisitions and the temporary construction easements. But for the full acquisition, which requires relocation services, we will procure relocation services for that based off of ADOT's requirements. So that's where we're at on that. This was the design that was selected. And then this next one is, here's the acquisitions that we need. The yellow is the temporary construction easements, and the purple are the permanent right-of-way takes. So as you can see, this LR01 is the full acquisition. We do have, this design did require the full acquisition of the primary residence at 2207 East Lockett. So that will be one of the acquisitions to go. And then the rest are kind of fringe elements on the four corners there. This ordinance, it kind of provides two options in it. Both are crafted to allow staff to move quickly should you approve the ordinance for acquisitions. I ask that you approve both of these options. Our experience with the Lone Tree Overpass has taught us that for acquisitions requiring relocation benefits, speed is paramount in our current real estate market. That might be changing, but for the time being, that's where it is. The reason for this is that we have to determine relocation benefits for the primary residence at 2207. And the way that we do that is we determine what a replacement house is in the market. So we have to define houses that are replaceable or comparable houses on the market and provide them a price differential for what their house appraised at. If the houses are no longer on the market, which is kind of what's been happening, we lose the opportunity to present them those determination of benefits. So the option really just allows staff to present those determination of benefits if they're over the $50,000 contract without having to go back to council. So those are the options, and that's why we selected them in there. I have a feeling, a sneaking suspicion, you might want to talk about design selection process and the design process of the project itself. Really, my agenda here and this item is really just focused on the property that we need for this design. So should that happen, we will begin to acquire the properties that we need for this. I'm scheduled to acquire, the goal is to deliver all the property that we need by the end of October of this year. So I'll start procuring that, require relocation services, start get an appraiser on board, and start moving through the property acquisition phase. And that's all I have. Open to any questions if you have any.
Thank you, Mr. Doty. And let's just stick to questions for now, and then we'll take public participants before our more council discussion.
Thank you, Mayor and Bryce. I almost said good evening. Good afternoon. Thank you for your quick and brief presentation. I'm just curious, do you have any feedback from either the landowner or the Pine Forest in regards to what their thoughts are and feelings are about the property acquisition? I was told that at I think a transportation commission, the landowner expressed willingness to sell the property to the city. But I'm wondering if there's been communications with Pine Forest and what their thoughts are about this property acquisition.
We have met with all the affected parcel owners for permanent acquisitions. That's correct. So Jeremy and I, last year, we did walk the site with the superintendent of Pine Forest and kind of let them know of the potential impacts that we knew of at the design phase at that time, and how the appraised values, or the appraised property that we need could help in terms of the loss of land for picnic tables or for volleyball and things like that. So we did kind of inform them about that. In terms of reception, nobody wants their property reduced, for sure, but they understand that this project is an important one for this intersection, was how I would describe it from last year.
Thank you. Any other questions, council, before public participation? All right, thank you, Mr. Doty. And with that, we will start with Cindy Rowe, if you'd like to come on down.
Thanks. Hi, I'm Cindy Rowe. I'm the Executive Director of Pine Forest Charter School right there on 4th and Cedar. Thank you for the opportunity to speak. You know, we realize the ship has left the dock and is almost out of the harbor on this, but I'm really here to express some concern. Is there enough data for a pedestrian traffic study regarding children? I come from the east. I'm also from East Flagstaff, I'm trying to say, coming into the school. And I get that we all want an easier path coming down Lockett Meadow, up 4th, down 4th. It's frustrating. What I sit from my office and see is children exiting our building after school for some time now over the years and just darting ready to go to the library through that slip lane. And, you know, children developmentally may or may not be able to handle and cognate how they are crossing those crosswalks. So that's my biggest concern, is potentially the plan as it's laid out, the points where the children will cross from the slip lane to sort of an island and then across again. You have daredevil children who are going to tempt each other. Run, see if you can make it before the car comes. You have children who are 5 years old, maybe being escorted by a sibling of 7 years old. Children are walking alone, and I'm more concerned at this point with where the crosswalks are sitting, and I would like the council to perhaps consider, do you have enough data for pedestrian children's safety, like roundabout engineers who are actually looking at how do children cross at these roundabouts, and is it safe? You know, we understand the need to acquire some of the property, but I just really would ask you, maybe you direct a little bit more study before you finalize where are those crosswalks, how is it going to be, maybe it's a done deal, but child development, they do not cognate. My first year at the school, I would watch the children go down and dart across that slip lane to the point where I ask us to stop them, have a teacher stand there and direct them all the way down to the MIMS crosswalk close to Ellen and go around. But we can't stand there for the next 20 years to make sure our students are safe. We don't have the funds to put crossing guards out there. There's not volunteers anymore. So just in thinking about the student safety, that's really our job as educators. That's our business. And watching developmentally, can children navigate it? I don't know. So blessings on your journey on this and blessing on all of ours. You know, we understand the need.
Thank you, Cindy. I think Councilmember Shimoni has a question.
Thank you, Mayor, and Cindy, thank you for being with us. Grateful to hear your voice. So a couple questions. Do you have how many kids are at your school?
Well, we'll have 200 next year.
Okay.
Coming back from the pandemic loss, we're climbing up to 200 now. Age 3 to 14, pre-K through 8th grade. Yeah.
3 to 14, okay. And then do you have any estimate as to how many kids are in that corridor region?
I would say 25% at this time. You know, we just moved to that location in 16, 17. So the local neighborhood now is discovering us. We're kind of quiet there with not a lot of advertising, but they are coming now. So I suspect our goal would be eventually 50% from the Sunnyside area and above and around there.
And Cindy, specifically, I'm thinking like how many kids are trying to cross that intersection?
Okay, crossing there pre-pandemic, I'd say we would have 20 children a day heading towards the library or heading down Lockett.
And then, Mayor, my last comment is really for staff. If it would be great to have staff walk through how a kid gets across this intersection, because I still have questions about that too, but thank you, Cindy.
You're welcome, yeah, welcome, and come visit, and I'll take you on a little tour where we would see them walking, so thank you.
Thank you, Cindy. And next, public speaker is Johanna Payton. And I just wanted you to know, so we have the 10 people listed here to be able to get the 10 minutes,
no.
but they have to be present to actually. to
Yeah,
get it.
I thought they were crossed out, so I apologize for that. So
No
you could
problem.
just
Yeah.
Pretend that's not there.
Well, you have 3 minutes, and then, follow-up questions. We'll definitely
Sure.
want to hear you out, so.
So my name is Johanna Payton. I've been a resident of Flagstaff for 34 years now, and I am a teacher at Pine Forest School. And in addition to all of the concerns that Cindy Rowe just expressed, I wanted to address some of the reasons we don't want to lose our property and ask if you have taken into consideration not only the physical safety, but the mental and emotional safety of the children at our school. The road is already too close to our school building, and it poses concerns for the safety of our students. One of the concerns is noise pollution, which also plays a significant role in mental and emotional health and the well-being of children. It won't only bring vehicles closer to our building, but it will also bring foot traffic closer to our building, which means strangers walking past will be closer, which is also a safety concern. I wanted to express that the schoolyard is our classroom. It is the only grassy area on campus for students to enjoy. We do class instruction outdoors, we have lunch, snack time outdoors, we play lots of games outdoors, and we will be losing our volleyball court. I wanted to inform you about the educational value of our schoolyard. We have a stewardship program in cooperation with Terra Birds, which is a local organization. We teach the children to treasure, respect, and care for their natural surroundings. The playground, the whole campus is our classroom. We study the natural environment contained within our class, on our campus, and this includes the trees. We have 2 old-growth trees, which are right along 4th Street and Lockett, and our students learn about them. They learn that they are old-growth trees. They have been here for hundreds of years, longer than the City of Flagstaff, longer than anyone in this room has been here, and they could be here for hundreds of years more if we take care of them. There's historical and ecological value to these trees, and I would also, if you're thinking of monetary value, they are priceless, and no amount of money that we get for the property will ever bring them back. They might not ever even be able to grow back with the current climate change conditions. You're very concerned about displacing families from their homes, and I understand you take this seriously, but I want to point out that Pine Forest School is the home for many of these students. Many of them spend more waking hours at our school on a daily basis than they spend in their own homes. This is a safe haven for them. It would be upsetting and gut-wrenching, to say the least, for our students and our teachers to see our beautiful schoolyard, our environment, our home torn apart, and then replaced with pavement and concrete. And I'm just asking you to take this into consideration. I feel that you all have a duty to be stewards for the at least 200 children that are at our school. And I ask you to consider it before it's too late and before irreversible damage is done.
Thank you, Ms. Payton. Do we have any online individuals this time?
No, Mayor, we do not.
Okay, thank you. With that, then happy to open it up to council discussion. Any additional questions of staff? Anything of the sort? Councilmember House.
Thank you, Mayor. I did have one question for staff, and it was just, with the concerns that are being raised, and I know we're talking tonight about that land acquisition. My question is just, does approving this ordinance preclude any further future discussion of the design that might address some of those concerns?
Hi, thank you for your question. Approving this, really the first phase of property acquisition, we can't really start that until we get legal descriptions. So design has to be at a certain point in its plans where the design is stable enough that they can order surveys and get legal descriptions so that all of these partial acquisitions we've got legals for, and I can send that to an appraiser and say, this is what we're taking, can you value what we need? If there are design changes to that, which feature legal description modifications, then that does set us back in terms of we would need different legal descriptions. So we would have to either modify what current legal descriptions we have, or get less than what we've already had. If that answers your question.
Thank you.
Thank you. Councilmember Shimoni.
All right, thank you, Mayor. So I voted in favor of this project, and I know we're talking about land acquisition tonight, but I voted in favor of this project in solidarity of Team Flagstaff and of my colleagues on council out of respect for us collectively, and wanted to show my support. But that decision weighed on my heart and my soul since that discussion, and I regretted that. So I want to just explain that I'm not going to be voting in favor of this tonight. I'm going to be hoping that we can stand behind option 3 and postpone this plan moving forward to a later date until there's further dialogue, engagement, and communication and planning around the needs of our most vulnerable, the kids in that region, the schools, MEMS, Pine Forest, Thomas, Puente de Hojo, Coconino High School, the library, CCC, and the 2 neighborhoods that are right there. This is likely our most pedestrian-focused intersection for youth in Flagstaff. And if we don't take the time necessary to ensure that this is done to prioritize the movement of children over the movement of cars, this is going to be a big regret that is going to leave us with, I don't even want to say it, but in a position that is not comfortable years ahead after we're off council. And so I, in good faith, cannot vote in favor of this. I think the design is flawed. I think it's missing what it needs to be a solid roundabout. And I think we need more discussion. This makes me so uncomfortable and has kept me up at night. We don't have good planning for children and how they need to cross the intersection here, and it's also 1.7 million over budget. With all due respect to all the conversations we've had, I think we need to explore alternatives, and I think that we need to really embrace the community in this discussion and engage them, because from what I'm hearing, they're not. And lastly, if we do move forward with this project, what I'm hearing from parents is that they will drive their kids to school, furthering the congestion at this intersection. So this project does not make it safer and more comfortable to walk and get to school. It does the opposite, and I think will result in more congestion. So, Mayor, I am supportive of option 3, which is not to adopt the ordinance and take some time, take a pause on this, and bring this back to council, maybe even host a town hall at Pine Forest. I believe Pine Forest said that they were willing to host that, and MEMS was too. All the leadership I spoke to at all the schools were very upset about this plan and borderline freaking out that this was moving forward. And I cannot help but agree with them. And we represent them, and we represent the kids. Who is the voice of the kids? Who speaks up for the children? That's what kept going through my head over the weekend. That's on us. They don't have a voice. They play Frogger to cross that street, as was mentioned. And this is not going to be pretty here. So before we have blood on our hands, I think we need to take a pause and not acquire this land to progress forward on this plan. Thank you.
Sterling?
Thank you, Mayor and Council. Councilmember Shimoni, I appreciate you acknowledging that this is just about the property acquisition phase, and the options are go ahead and acquire or adopt the ordinance with one or two related delegation of authority, and then number 3 was just not to adopt authority, not to extend or authorize acquisition of property. I know much of what you mentioned, though, was about the safety and the design and all of that. I need to make it very clear to everyone that that's not, unfortunately, what's on the agenda tonight. What's here tonight is just the property acquisition question.
Thank you, Sterling, for helping us focus. Councilmember McCarthy.
I realize the narrow purpose of this agenda item tonight, but I take Mr. Shimoni's comments very seriously, and we've got a lot of emails that are of concern. So, and it was a long time ago since we talked about this. I was under the impression that one of the reasons that we're doing this project, assuming we do it, was for safety reasons. So maybe, if it's appropriate, could I ask Jeff Bauman to maybe compare the safety of this to, and don't get up, Jeff, yet. So, Mr. Solomon, did you want to comment to my?
Yeah, because we're starting to get into safety and design. And this
Okay,
is,
but,
this,
all right.
unfortunately, again, if it was posted for that tonight, we could discuss.
Okay, so an option is we could vote this down tonight,
That is correct.
and then we could come back and have a discussion about it. So if we are not allowed to have a discussion, at least briefly, about safety, then I'm a no vote also. So, eventually, I would guess I probably will vote for this project, but I would like to review, how do we get pedestrians across, and I have a couple ideas that come to mind about how we could make very minor changes to it that might help. So anyway, it would be out of order to have Mr. Bauman even make a brief discussion about it. Is that correct?
The way the agenda item reads, that is correct.
Okay, so I really hate to do this, but I'm going to vote no also, and ask Greg Clifton in the person of Shannon to bring this back and have another discussion on it. And at that point, maybe we can come back. And that may delay this a month, but I'm with you, Mr. Shimoni.
Thank you, Councilmember McCarthy. Other comments? Vice Mayor.
Thank you. There are a lot of concerns on this, and my question, if we delay this and we come back, depending on future information, is that allowing enough time for the land acquisition and giving those that are needing to adjust enough time when it's all said and done for this to happen and to give everyone the time and space to adjust?
Thank you. I'm going to let Jeremy DeGator, the project manager delivering this project, kind of tell you where the land acquisition fits within the project.
Mayor, Vice Mayor, council members, Jeremy DeGator, Capital Improvements Project Manager. We're on our original plan was to be under construction in 2023 with this project. We're on a relatively tight schedule to meet that, and that if we were not able to approve this tonight, that would jeopardize whether or not we would still be able to meet a construction season in 2023. The impact of that would just be that we would either be looking at a second construction season or that it would slide another year. I don't have enough information to fully speak to some of the other funding considerations related to the HSIP, Highway Safety Improvement Program grant, the funding of roughly $1.9 million that is contributing to this process, so I can't speak to what exactly some of those ramifications may be if we so choose to delay.
Is there anyone here that can talk about the funding ramifications, funding delays?
I believe ADOT manages these for us, so it really ties into their process and their program because they manage this for many local agencies. We are just one of many.
Thank you. Councilmember McCarthy.
It might be, I think it's very possible, that this is safer than the existing situation, or the existing intersection. And if we were allowed to discuss that, we could establish that and move on. But if we're not allowed to talk about it, then we don't know that it's safer.
Well, let me jump in here. We got this grant for a safety improvement grant. We had to show that this was going to improve safety at this intersection to receive the grant in the first place. Secondly, we've had multiple discussions about this, and I went back and I rewatched our video about this from a year ago, where we did discuss this very directly. And in fact, of the, I believe, 4 projects that we had put forth, which even included a double roundabout, if you remember, we chose the safest option that was presented to us at that time, because that was what council was most concerned about then, and I can say right now as well. We are primarily concerned about the safety. That's the whole purpose of this project in the first place. I do agree with Councilmember McCarthy that this needs to be brought back. I would like to request a work session, which would be 3 weeks from now, to discuss the safety impacts of this and provide information to the public to hopefully ease some concerns, as well as maybe discuss potential options for certain refinements, like where the crosswalk is located and so forth, so we can make sure that this is happening, or doing it to the best of our ability. That being said, we do have a property owner on this corner amidst a difficult situation trying to find a comparable home, trying to find somewhere else that is going to be suitable for them within the price range. And I think we owe it to that landowner, if we are going to do a roundabout here, which we've already approved multiple times with an IGA starting back in May 2020, that a roundabout would exist here. Now, the specifics about it, I'm open to further discussion and learning more about and getting the public's input. But we have already approved a roundabout will exist here. And a roundabout being there requires that particular property to be acquired in total. What I would suggest tonight is that we do put this work session, information session, 3 weeks from now on the calendar potentially. Oh, Ms. Salzberg.
Sorry, Mayor, I just wanted to jump in and clarify, we do not have a work session in 3 weeks. We have 2 back-to-back work sessions next week and the week after, because it is a 5 Tuesday month.
Oh, okay, 5 Tuesday a month. All right, so then in 2 weeks. So normally we do work sessions every other week, so giving more time than just 1 week to staff to prepare a presentation was what I was aiming for with that suggestion. So in 2 weeks, have a work session, information session on this topic. Tonight, though, at least that one property, I feel we need to move forward with and allow the property owner more time. If we want to discuss the pine forest part of the acquisition, and potentially we can modify that and have further discussions, I'm fine with that. But tonight, I would like to say we need to approve the lot of LR01 at least for land acquisition to provide that property owner more time to find a comparable property and allow Mr. Doty and the team to find that property in the process. That is my suggestion for this evening. Yes.
If I may, Mayor and Council, again, tonight is just the first read of the ordinance as well. The second read is on June 7th.
So just to explain that to the public, as a first read, any vote we have to do twice, 2 weeks apart. And as a first read, that doesn't mean thing is going to be completely approved tonight. It just means it moves one step in the process while we gather more information. Again, I am concerned about that property owner and being able to allow the time for land acquisition for that specific property. And I am open for further refinements to the plan for a roundabout. Councilmember McCarthy.
Considering that this is only a first read tonight, I think I can support it with the understanding that before we do the final read, we would have a work session to work out some of these details.
So just to clarify.
It's kind of a compromise.
Yeah, thank you, Councilman McCarthy. So just to clarify then, this would come back before council to get the information about traffic and safety issues on the May 31st meeting, and we would not have a second read to finalize this vote until June 7th, which would be a week after. So if we move this along tonight, it's not a done deal, but at least allows the process to continue, and we still have time to get more information and pursue it. So I think you know where I'm going with this, but just wanted to kind of hash that out a little bit. Councilmember Salas.
Mr. Mayor, I appreciate that clarification. Thank you. I have a question on the description for the property being acquired under temporary construction easement, because we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 properties under right-of-way and temporary construction easement, including of that pine forest. When we say temporary construction easement, do we give back the easement to the property owner once the construction, once the project is complete and the construction is done?
Thank you, Councilmember Salas. You are correct. So these are just to construct the project. Once the project is constructed, all of those easements will go away. We typically, compensation for temporary construction easements are usually a percentage of the fee property, depending on how long you need it, generally 10% per year kind of thing. So that's kind of what to expect for the value of those temporary construction easements.
Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Salas. Councilmember Aslan? Oh, you're on mute, Councilmember Aslan.
Is that better?
There we
work.
go.
I was 30 seconds into a speech there. I'll start over. I just thank you, Mayor. My hand was up for a while. I really appreciate your intervention and the comments that you made a moment ago. I fully support moving forward at this time with this process, with the caveat that I completely agree with some of the concerns that are being raised, and we should take another look at this. But I just want to double down on what you said. We've had these conversations. The safety of this project was assured to us by our engineers and city staff. And I bristle a little bit at the characterization that we're plowing forward here with something that's not appropriate. These conversations already happened. These characteristics were already vetted. And I just feel bad for our staff who have to sort of play Groundhog Day here when they're ready, they're 5 steps ahead to try to move forward on this project that we've all approved. And their explanations for the safety of this should be taken into consideration from previous conversations. And while it's always important and necessary to revisit some of these things, it's prudent to take another look. For right now, according to this agenda item, I think it is completely appropriate for us to press forward, and we can have some of those other conversations. And I don't know if we need to go into executive session to discuss this, but I would be very, very careful with throwing around phrases like blood on our hands. I find that entirely inappropriate and dangerous and just just reckless rhetoric. We are talking about school children here. My own daughter was hit by a car in this intersection. Some of the folks at the school there probably helped her out when that situation occurred. There's nothing more important to any of us than our children's safety. And for this conversation to be whittled down to recklessness is frankly highly offensive. And I'm ready to move forward if you need a motion.
Thank you, Councilmember Aslan. Councilmember Shmoney.
Thank you, Mayor. I really appreciate your comments, Mayor, about the second read and the first read. I'll say I can't, in good conscience, support it, but I understand I might be in the minority here, and I'm really grateful for that work session because I think the public deserves it. I think our kids deserve it, and I do have some major concerns with this myself, and I know that members of the public do too. So I look forward to us hashing it out then. And I'm glad of the reminder that there is a second read on June 7th for this land acquisition. But I just wanted to say I can't, in good conscience, support us moving forward, even with the home, knowing how flawed this project is, in my opinion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Shmoney. Councilmember McCarthy.
Well, as I said a couple minutes ago, I will support this tonight because it's not final. There'll be a second read with the understanding that we'll have another discussion. To address Mr. Aslan's comments, in general, I agree with we shouldn't go back and rehash what we already decided. I agree with that. But two things. There's about two or three things. One is that this is really important to the neighborhood. I see a couple things that I would like to change right now, which I'm not going to get into. And the other thing is, if staff's already done all this, it's not a lot of work to prepare again because they've already done it. They just have to go pull out those old files and come here and ask questions. So I do support moving forward the first step. This isn't the final step. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember McCarthy. Vice Mayor.
Thank you, and thank you to my colleagues for all of the comments tonight. I will support this moving forward, knowing that it is the first read. I look forward to the meeting on the 31st. I have two boys that went to Point A to Hojo. I know this intersection, and I look forward to a robust conversation. And because I'm putting this forward tonight doesn't mean that I'm not there for the children. Thank you.
Thank you, Vice Mayor. I'll just add one personal note, too. My son goes to MIMS. My children are waitlisted at Puente. They walk home from school every day. My son walks through that intersection every single week. Safety is the utmost thing I'm thinking about when I look at this project, because it is my own children going through that intersection and walking through it. So I'm always up for a conversation about how we can improve the safety at that intersection. I also am very confident that the general way that this is being approached and how we're doing it and what the discussions we've had leading up to it and our engineer's intent by how this is designed is for the safety of the children. And that doesn't mean that we can necessarily, that we can't improve upon the project. But I will say that this is my mind going into this because it is my children in that intersection. So with that, I'm happy to entertain a motion, and we will have further discussions about this moving forward.
I move that we read ordinance 2022-13 by title only for the first time. Do we have to have something said about options?
That can just occur at the second read. Yeah. You don't
Okay,
have to
that's
do
my
that now.
motion.
All right, we have a motion on the table from Councilmember McCarthy. I'll go ahead and second that motion. Any further discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
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 Those opposed?
Aye.
All right. With a 6-1, that ordinance does pass at this time. City Clerk.
An ordinance of the City Council of the City of Flagstaff authorizing the acquisition of real property and the determination and offers of relocation benefits to persons displaced to make way for the 4th Street, Cedar Avenue, Lockett Road Roundabout Project, providing for delegation of authority, severability, authority for clerical corrections, and establishing an effective date.
Thank you. We're now down to agenda